Steli, you've been a CEO of Close for how many years now?
6 years.
6 years. Why did you start this company? Why was it so exciting for you to start?
Yeah, if you told me 8 years ago I would be running a CRM business, I would have punched you in the face. So there's nothing that looked exciting. We stumbled into it. We built a piece of software for our own needs, and eventually other people told us that they wanted to buy the product as well.
Okay.
And we thought, all right, we'll launch this and we'll see what happens. The space we were in is so competitive that if today the story was we launched with a really cool product but nobody cared, it would make total sense to me.
Sure.
But we got lucky with the right timing, a very different approach, and the market responded. And so we kept growing the business and it became a lot of fun to do.
How many people are you having on the team?
We're a tiny team with 35 people, 12 different countries, fully distributed team.
And how do you actually manage them? Like a lot of companies are struggling a lot with having remote teams. Like how do you personally, plan your time, but also prioritize for the team?
So the most important thing to do is to hire the right people. See, people ask me all the time, how do you make sure that these remote employees work? I'm like, my biggest problem is not that they work. My biggest problem is they work too much. Like we actually enforce vacations. We have to check in how much breaks people take because the type of people we hire are so passionate and are all sort of workaholics in one way or another. So if you hire the right people, you don't have to babysit them or worry about them being honest to you or working or not working. The other thing I'd say in terms of productivity, the biggest tool that we use is team alignment.
Okay.
If everybody in the company understands where we want to go, what we need to do and why, they can make really good decisions on their own and move fast. It's when we're misaligned and everybody's pulling in a different direction and there's confusion of why we're doing what and where we want to go, where everything slows down to a halt, right? So at the end of the day, having a remote company or a company where everybody works out of the same office, it's the same principles. In a remote company, you just can't get away with anything. Like you have to be so good at everything you do. You have to be so disciplined about the way the things you do. Otherwise, you don't instantly see the problems.
But if you go tactical, in terms of communication, do you guys have like daily meetings? What do you do to keep the communication aligned?
Yeah, so we have a weekly team-wide rhythm where on Mondays every team publishes an update on what happened last week and what's happening next week, as well as every month and post-mortem of last month and next month and every quarter. So that's the rhythm. And every team publishes this so every other team can see it, they can comment on it, they can have discussions around it, so there's full transparency. We have company-wide updates about finances and everything. Every piece of information in the company is public, and we work really hard so there's no information silos. Because again, in a remote company, if people don't have the right information, if they don't know what discussions certain people had, then you're wasting time, you're wasting energy, you're wasting efforts. So you want to make sure that everybody in the company knows as much as possible or can have access to all the information they need. And then once a week, we have a team-wide meeting. It's 20 minutes, there's an agenda set. 2 days before, people can suggest agenda items they want to talk about. So the meeting is really well structured and prepared. It's always recorded and transcribed. Again, if somebody can't make it, they can watch it. The information is still there. And then right after the meeting, we actually pair 2 or 3 people together. Usually people that don't work together, so 2 engineers and a marketing person. And we give them a topic to talk about so that there's a strong social fabric within the company.
Cool. And what about the personal productivity? You're a keynote speaker, you're running a podcast, you're CEO of a growing company. How do you have like a process or a method, a system to prioritize and plan your personal time?
No. My biggest productivity tool is saying no.
Okay.
Yeah, I have learned to say no to a lot of things. And the more busy you get, the more successful I've gotten, or the more exposure I've gotten, the more people want things from me, the more people want my time, my attention, they want to offer me opportunities,
sure,
whatever it is. So you just have to become very disciplined about it. So I say no to an insane amount of things. The things that I do, I only do things that I can do with leverage.
Right. But how do you actually find these things that are most important? Like from all the potential things that you can choose to spend your time on?
It's a good question. I mean, it's at the end of the day, there's a lot of experience, but there's certain questions that can lead you to those outcomes and to prioritization. So my question is, what is something that I'm more qualified for than anybody else in my company to do and to progress my company for? What are the biggest things that I can really do? Sometimes it's an intuitive thing, but sometimes it's clear that when it comes to hiring a super senior executive, that's something I am the best person to do in the company. That's something that takes a lot of time. It's very hard work, but it pays massive dividends for the company. There's almost nothing more leverage I can do than hire the right person for the company. So hiring and recruiting is at the very top of my list of things to do. Then there are things that are good for the company that are easy for me to do, so I do them. For 2 years, I would create a 5-10 minute video every day because it took me 10 minutes. It was first cut, no editing. I didn't spend an hour or two. I didn't write scripts. So 10 minutes was easy enough for me to do. And it brought a lot of value. We created a lot of content. It gave us a lot of visibility. It created a big content pipeline that drove a lot of traffic to our site. And it created a character, a personal touch to our brand. So it was not the most important thing. I would not spend 7 hours of my day doing a video, but because I could do it in 10 minutes, it seemed leverage enough from a cost and return ratio. But I just asked myself, what is something valuable I can do that other people couldn't do as well that work with me?
Final question, Steli. Where can people find you online?
Just go, you can get in touch with me, steli@close.com. You can check out my podcast, thestartupchat.com, and you can find me anywhere. If you type in Steli in Google, you'll find my stuff.
Thank you so much, Steli.
Thank you, my man.